Hey, have you ever seen the videos of people doing VR, like wearing VR goggles and completely losing perspective of where they are in a room? And they either run into a wall, they kick their TV. I'll never forget the first time I ever put on VR goggles. I don't know if it was Cole or Caleb, one, brought them over to my house, and we went. I put them on, and the video was me going down in like a shark cage to the bottom. It was like a trial thing. So you go down to the very bottom of the ocean, you're in a shark cage, and you really do kind of lose perception that you're not in that cage and at the bottom. And at the end, a great white shark like jumps at you and you panic and you freak out. The first time that my wife ever tried it, she was playing a game called Hot Shot, I think it was. And is that what it's called? Is it called Hot Shot? And Super Hot, there it is. It was called Super Hot. And so she's got the gun and she's walking around, and you're supposed to like hide behind walls and come around and you shoot and all that kind of stuff. And so she's kind of freaking out and she's shooting. Well, at some point she sits down. She like squats on the ground and she's shooting, and she's completely lost in the game. And we know this because she yells, "How do I get up? How do I get up?" And Caden, who was probably like 14 at the time, he goes, "Mom, just stand up." But totally losing herself in the game, she like forgot about reality, right? Now let's flip it. Have you ever been in a situation where there is a spiritual reality or reality that you can't see that's really there? When you wear VR goggles, you're seeing things that aren't really there. In our spiritual lives, there are things really there that we can't see. It's like the opposite of wearing VR goggles. You put on VR goggles, you see things that aren't really there. In our spiritual life, there are things there that we can't see. That's what's happening in our story in 2 Kings chapter 6. Elijah, that you guys talked about last week, Elijah is called to heaven. And he's called to heaven in a very, very unusual way, right? He goes to where God has called him, and the Bible describes it as a chariot of fire comes down out of the sky and just sweeps him up. And he is taken to heaven. His disciple, his Padawan, is left there, and his name's Elisha. Now, here's how you can remember which one comes first, because there's always confusion of which one comes first, Elijah or Elisha. Well, does J come before S? Then Elijah comes first. Elisha comes second. Just a little trick of the trade there for you if you want to take it. Elisha is left. And he literally takes the mantle, the outer kind of garment that Elijah has, and he takes it as his own. But by taking the mantle, he's really taking even more than that. He's taking Elijah's place as the prophet of God. And in 2 Kings chapter 6, Elisha is going to pray a prayer for his servant to see into the spiritual world. To see an invisible world that he couldn't see but was really there. And even though it was invisible, it was nonetheless real. What he sees is going to fill him with comfort and boldness and ensure him that the things he saw that day were never going to leave him. He would never see the same way again. So if you haven't already, turn to 2 Kings chapter 6. We're going to start in verse 8. We're just going to read them as we go along. Verse 8. Once when the king of Syria was warring against Israel, he took counsel with his servants, saying, "At such and such a place shall be my camp." But the man of God sent word to the king of Israel, "Beware that you do not pass this place, for the Syrians are going down there." The king of Israel sent to the place about which the man of God had told him, and thus he used to warn him, so that he saved himself there more than once or twice. So here's what was happening. The Syrian king is waging war with Israel. He wants to attack Israel. He goes and camps at secret locations. God reveals to Elisha where the Syrian king is at and his army. He goes and tells the Israelite king, hey, don't go this way because that's where they're at. And the king of Syria doesn't understand how this keeps happening. It's happening more than, as it says, more than once or twice. So this is a recurring thing. Syria goes here. God reveals to Elisha where they are. Elisha tells Israel and the king. The Israelites then know exactly where they are. This keeps happening over and over and over again. Verse 11, and the mind of the king of Syria was greatly troubled because of this thing. Well, yeah, it's a cheat code. Like you're trying to win a battle when the other guys have a cheat code. And he called his servants to him. Will you not show me who of us is the king of Israel? And one of his servants said, none, my lord, O king, but Elisha, the prophet who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedroom. In other words, he's like, how is the king of Israel knowing all this stuff? And they're like, Elisha. Elisha's telling the king of Israel what you say in your own bedroom. He is privy to like secret information. That's how Israel keeps knowing this. So he says in verse 13, go and see where he is, that I may send and seize him. It was told to him, behold, he is in Dothan. So he sent there horses and chariots and a great army, and they came by night and surrounded the city. And when the servant of the man of God, the servant of Elisha, rose early in the morning and went out, behold, an army with horses and chariots were all around the city. And the servant said, alas, my master, what shall we do? Now, we'll stop right there for a minute. He sends chariots and a host of soldiers to surround Dothan, to go around Dothan, getting ready to either kill or arrest or capture Elisha. Just so happens that before Elisha gets up, this servant gets up. I'm assuming the servant is getting up to do his daily duties around camp, around the house, whatever it may be. He's in charge of doing something, so he's up and he starts his duties and he looks up and he sees that the entire city is surrounded by a massive army. His reaction, completely normal. His reaction, completely rational. And he cries out to Elisha, Elisha, oh my master, what are we going to do? He sees the physical, real threat in front of him. It's a real thing. This isn't make-believe. This isn't just something he's imagining. There are real killers surrounding the city, and he knows why they're there. They're coming to get Elisha. This was a real threat, and Elisha's servant sees this real threat, and it terrifies him. And honestly, he had every reason to be terrified. Every reason to fear for his life, to lose hope. Here's what I want you to see. The truth. Your life is lived in a physical world. This physical world can be scary at times. It can be painful at times. It can be overwhelming at times. Now, when you say that, that's not a statement that you make because you lack faith. That's a statement of reality. Like, we live in a world that can be very troubling for us. It can be a threat to our physical being, our mental being, our emotional being. Like, there is a real, tangible world we live in, and that tangible world is not always peaceful. It is not faithless to make that observation. It's reality. I want you to imagine for a moment. You're having a normal day. School's about to start for many of you. You're having a normal day. You get up. You wake up for school. Maybe you're listening to music. And suddenly you get a text from one of your best friends. We need to talk. Another one of your best friends hits you up. Something's happened. Another best friend hits you up. It's bad. It's real bad. Your heart is going to begin to race. Your anxiety is going to go up. Your stomach is going to drop. You don't know what it is, but you know from these few words that it's bad, and your brain then begins to fill in the blanks of worst case scenario. Fear, anxiety, panic, all from something that is obviously real, even though you don't know the fullness of it, right? You just get the text that says something's bad, this is not good, oh my gosh, we've got to talk. Your brain starts filling in the gaps of what this could possibly be, and most of the time it goes to worst case scenario. Well, that's what's happening to Elisha's servant. He sees the army, he sees the danger, and even though he does not see the full picture, it's shaking him to his core. We're going to die. This is it, Elisha. What are we going to do? How are we going to get out of this? How are we going to run? How are we going to free ourselves? Like, we're in serious, serious trouble. Felt like the end for him. That's because all he could see was the threat. Of course it's going to feel like the end when all you see is the threat. When that's all the vision that you have, of course. You can't defeat this army. Winston Churchill once said, "Fear is a reaction. Courage is a decision." Fear is a reaction, right? Courage is a decision. But how can you choose courage when the fear feels bigger than you? Right? You've got this threat in front of you in your life, and you want to choose courage, but your fear is so strong that it's bigger than you. Well, that's where the servant is, and that's what's going to lead us to the next truth. Look at verse 16. What does Elisha say to him? Do not be afraid. How can you even say that? Elisha, how can you even say that? Do not be afraid. But that's what he says. Do not be afraid. For those who are with us are more than those who are with them. Now let's just stop for a minute. What are you talking about, Elisha? The servant has to be looking at Elisha thinking, what are you talking about? I'm looking at me and you. 1-2. 1-2, Elisha. I'm looking at this army that's surrounding us. I have eyes, I can see, I can look. I know the situation that we're in. But Elisha says, don't fear, because there's more with us than there is with them. Then go to verse 17. Second half of the verse, it says, So the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. Don't fear. We got more with us than they got with them. And the Lord opens up the eyes of the servant. And when he opens up his eyes to see, he notices a spiritual army completely surrounding Elisha. In between this army and Elisha. An army much mightier than anything that the king of Syria can put together. You see, there was more going on here than what the servant could see, right? He just saw the threat, the danger. The fear welled up in him because that's all he saw. But there was more to see, wasn't there? There was more to see. He just couldn't see it. The spiritual realm was just as real as the physical realm. And just because he couldn't see it doesn't mean it wasn't real. And that's the way it is for us. We live in this physical reality, but there is a spiritual realm that exists. And even though we cannot see that spiritual realm, that doesn't mean it's not real. As my first point said, what you see can shake you, what you can't see can save you. Yes, he is shaken by what he sees, But now he's going to get to step into a spiritual realm, to see what he couldn't see before. And that's going to change everything for him. Imagine you go to school. Let's just say this is a trope that is in many movies. All right, I'm gonna take this illustration and put it with school. You see this illustration in Lion King. You see it in some other movies and stuff. But here's the illustration: little kid goes to school. He's getting picked on by an older school bully. Let's say the kid's in 6th grade. He's getting picked on by an 8th grader over and over and over again in middle school. He just keeps getting messed with. He keeps getting picked on. And every day becomes a fearful, terrible thing for this 6th grade boy as he heads to school, because he knows he's going to have to deal with the bully every single day. Well, his senior brother that's captain of the football team, that's 6'3", 240 pounds, and ripped, finds out that his little brother is getting messed with every day. So he decides to show up at the middle school before classes. And he begins to spread the word. Hey, that's my little brother that's getting picked on. It's my little brother that's getting messed with. You guys are going to stop. And for a while, it does kind of stop. For a while, the bullying stops. But then that one guy that will not let it go decides one day after school, he's going to mess with this kid once again. So he comes up to him and he kind of shoves him and he's teasing him and he's making fun of him and he's doing what bullies do. And the little kid wants to defend himself and he wants to stand up for himself, but he realizes, like, what am I going to do to this guy? Well, the whole time that's happening, in the sight of the bully, but not the sight of the little kid, the older brother steps around the corner. And what does the 8th grade boy do at that point? He stops. He realizes, if I lay a hand on this kid, I'm dead. 6'3", 245 pounds, ripped. What's he going to do? He's going to stop. Now, does the little brother even know the big brother's in the background? No. He doesn't know his brother's back there. But he wasn't alone, was he? Even though he's there in that situation, behind him, he doesn't see his brother, but he wasn't alone. And all of a sudden, the situation changes because of the presence of his brother that he cannot see. That's what happens here for them. All of a sudden, he's able to see what he couldn't see. Was he safe the whole time? Was he safe even before he saw the spiritual army? Yeah. Just because he couldn't see the spiritual army doesn't mean he wasn't already safe. It wasn't like he saw the army and then got safe. He was safe before he ever saw the army. He just didn't see the army. The servant thought it was over. He didn't see his protection. He didn't see his backup. He didn't see the army that was surrounding them to protect them. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. I love what C.S. Lewis says. He says, it is not the physical objects, but the spiritual realities that are truly substantial. Doesn't mean that the physical world is meaningless. It just means there's a whole lot going on in what you can't see that really brings substance to this whole situation. Now I want to ask the question. What happens between the servant not seeing and the servant seeing? Well, look at the beginning of verse 17. Then Elisha prayed, O Lord, please open his eyes that he may see. So he goes from not seeing the spiritual army to seeing the spiritual army. Does Syria's army disappear? No, it's still there. The quote-unquote threat is still there. The circumstance hasn't changed. That army is still surrounding Dothan. It's still surrounding the city. What changes? The servant's vision changes. The servant's vision is what changes. Not necessarily the circumstance. And what makes the difference? What causes the servant to go, I can't see, to now I see what's really going on? It's when Elisha prays, Lord, open his eyes. Prayer is not escaping reality, guys. Prayer is not escaping reality. It changes the clarity. It doesn't change reality, it changes how you can see or not. So many times you're going to pray, God change this, God change this, God change this, God change this. And God is going to say, no. I'm leaving the threat there. I'm leaving the issue there. Whatever that issue might be, God may choose to leave it in your life. And in those moments, what you need is clear vision to see how God sees. To see what's really going on. And you get that through prayer. I don't know about you guys, but when we get when the weather kind of starts changing here, and we don't get a long winter, but we get a little bit of winter. Have you ever been with your parents, or you've been driving, and all of a sudden every window in the car fogs up? And sometimes in Texas, it is difficult to figure out, like, what temperature do I need to put the AC and the heat on? Do I need to hit the windshield wipers? Is that outside or inside? Do I need a rag to wipe it? And sometimes it's difficult to figure out how to be able to see out your windows. And it's scary because you can't see anything. There are times where I'm driving and the defrost is only like defrost at the very bottom above the thing. And so you're just driving like this. Right? You're just looking at that little bit of road that you can see and you're just like, I think I'm good. I think I'm good. But what happens if you get it right? What happens if the defrost begins to do its job? All of a sudden, that window that you couldn't see out of begins to defrost. Your mirrors, your side mirrors begin to all of a sudden now you begin to see. Now let me ask you a question. Did the street change? Did the driveway change? Did the other people on the road change? No. You just started being able to see properly. The defrost started doing its job. And what I want you to understand is that in life, there's going to come so many times where the circumstance is not going to change. The army's still going to be there. And what you need in those moments when God says, I'm not going to change the circumstance, what you need to begin praying for is, then God, give me eyes to see this situation the way you do. Help me see this the way you see this. Give me a spiritual perspective on things, not just a physical perspective on things. Elisha didn't pray for a miracle to get rid of the army. He prayed for his servant to see what was clearly true. Prayer is like defrosting and clearing up the spiritual fog so that we can't see stuff, right? We go to God and we begin praying, and all of a sudden, sometimes things become clear that weren't clear before. We begin to see things the way God sees things. Guys, prayer is not about changing God's mind. So many times people think, not that we don't cast all of our cares before the Lord, we do. But people think that it's about trying to twist God's arm, or if we get enough people to pray that we can change God's mind and get God to do what we want him to do. But it's not about changing God's mind. It's about changing how we see things. That's what we need more than anything else, is to see things as we should see things. It's how you start seeing with faith instead of fear, confidence instead of confusion. The circumstance doesn't change, but all of a sudden you start seeing that circumstance without fear. Now I got faith. No more confusion. Now I got clarity. Why? Because God is giving you spiritual insight and wisdom to see what's really going on. So here's what the takeaway tonight about prayer. You're going to face things in life that are scary, painful, very real things that may shake you at your core, make you feel like you're surrounded and you have no hope. But that's the visible world. But what you have to know is there is more to all of this than just what I can see with my eyes. There's more to this than just what meets the eyesight that I can see. God is with me. His power, His presence, His purpose is all around me, even when I feel like I might be alone. Even when I feel like this situation's too much. The key, listen to me, the key is prayer. Lord, give me the spiritual insight to see this situation for what it really is. Not just saying words, but really seeking the face of God. It's almost like God can kind of hand you His eyes. Oh, here's how I should be looking at this. Here's how I should see this. So you start seeing people differently. You start seeing problems differently. And eventually you see yourself differently. So this week, tonight, and the rest of this week, ask God to open your eyes. Not just to what's happening around you, but to what He's doing around you, what He's doing through you, what He's doing in you, how He wants to use you. Because once you start seeing God like that, once you start seeing the world like that, then things will never look the same again. If all we're doing is seeing the physical, then we're not going to make the impact that we're supposed to make. But once we start seeing things spiritually like we should, and all of a sudden the defog comes on, and we're able to see things clearly, even in the midst of feeling surrounded by the physical world, then all of a sudden clarity happens, and we're able to see circumstances, see people, see what God is doing in a way that we never have before. Then all of a sudden, we can step out in faith, step out in clarity. No more confusion, no more fear that overrides everything else. Does that make sense? This simple little prayer, Lord, open his eyes, gives us a huge principle to apply to our own life. So, this week when something crazy happens and you find yourself in a nutty situation, just stop and say, Lord, open my eyes. Open my eyes. Help me to see this for what it really is. Not just what my physical eyes can see. Give me spiritual insight and wisdom to all of this right now so that I can see it properly.